Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this the Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. However, this is a video where I can actually see things getting somewhat better. Now, I think it's fair to point out at the beginning of this that I am a member of Reform and do put all my backing behind Reform, and being obviously on the right, I also appreciate how the free market works and that when you have competition, everyone effectively tries to outcompete each other to be the most useful seller in the market of buyers. And at the moment, we have a massive buyer's market for right-wing sensibilities, mainly in culture. Obviously, economically, there's still an awful lot to do to teach people about economics, but we'll get to that. This, however, is going to be a video on how Tories are actually probably going to now avoid
electoral oblivion. To electoral oblivion. To electoral oblivion.
So what has exactly happened? Well, let's get right into it. The Tories have announced that they are at their final two candidates for the leadership election, having whittled out all of the candidates down to Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick, two candidates who were seen at the right of the party. And when it comes to the Tories, I don't particularly have a dog in this race. I don't really care which two of these people actually become leader of the party. If I was to have a preference and I was not a Reform member, I was a free radical as it were, I would probably prefer Robert Jenrick. I think he would have a better chance of getting the party into a state where it could actually win in 2029, or at least have a Reform Conservative deal where they co-sign Labour to electoral oblivion. I'm going to keep using that word, because they are more unpopular than Truss now, at least with the over 65s, which is both the party's main demographic. But Kemi Badenoch as the alternative, I don't think she is as good as Jenrick. She was definitely my second favourite, but she was second favourite by quite a long way. The issue I have with Kemi Badenoch is her record. I'm not going to go into detail on it in this video, but effectively, very much like a lot of people in the previous cabinets, she has a habit of saying one thing to the electorate and doing another when actually in power. Now, I still have the cope that is mainly down to the civil service. However, she still seems fine with allowing hundreds of thousands of foreign students into the country because they help fund the university system. And as far as I'm concerned, Tories should be trying to absolutely annihilate the university system as they see it now. However, even bearing that in mind, she does annoy all the right people. And as far as I'm concerned, I just want people in positions of power that are annoying all the right people. Kemi Badenoch does that quite well, as does Robert Jenrick, as we will go through, and because of that I will still be quite happy if she wins. In fact, in some ways it's better if she wins, because then it is a better chance for Reform to actually do well in the coming Welsh Council and even future general election. After learning that she'd won, Kemi Badenoch released a statement on Twitter saying, "I'm absolutely delighted to have toppled the MP phase of this contest. A huge thank you to all the MPs who put their faith in me, especially those who campaigned for me. I am grateful to all my supporters, both members and non-members, online and offline, who kept me going. There is much to do. I am going to fight for every member vote, but tonight I just want to say thank you. This campaign has never been about me." Okay, yes it has, but it's been about Renewal 2030, which is obviously Kemi Badenoch's group within the Conservative Party that is effectively about remaking the Tory party. Again, I want to make it clear, both these candidates are actually for completely shaking up the Tory party. I'm perfectly fine with that. I am not on the side of the Tory party needs to die no matter what. I am on the side of the Tory party needs to be destroyed if they put someone like Cleverly in charge, some NPC party man who has no interest in actually changing the party but just carrying on with business as usual, because it doesn't work and it's made Britain completely stagnant for 14 years. Fixing the broken system and renewing our party and country, well, there you go. My main issue with Kemi Badenoch is that I don't trust her, but I'm completely on board with the rhetoric. Because the thing is, if you're using this rhetoric and Kemi Badenoch pushes it and does it completely wrong and has lied about it, you open the door for someone better to take their place, and, you know, over a long period of time, this is a good direction for the party anyway. My point being is that I don't trust Kemi, but the direction she's going is much better than most other candidates, apart obviously from Robert Jenrick, who pushes in the same direction, just harder, and is more trustworthy because when he was Immigration Minister, he resigned basically over the fact that the civil service was completely against him actually reducing it, and he realised how bad the immigration problem actually was. Not too long after this thank you, Kemi Badenoch also released another tweet with a video titled "It's Time to Tell the Truth, #VoteKemi." It's 2 minutes long, and yes, we are going to go through it.
People in this room and outside feel frustrated and angry that the political class has failed to deliver on its promises.
This first image, by the way, is an absolutely perfect example of why I do not trust Kemi. Her rhetoric, as I say, it's been perfectly fine and reasonable. No identity politics, Britain is great, more free market, blah 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 blah. Perfectly fine with all that. But then for some reason, the first person she put in her campaign video is a co-founder of a group called Women to Win, which is feminist identity politics. Again, as I say at this point, my only real incentive is for the Tory party to give me decent content for the next few years. I really don't care about them beyond that. And triggering the left is genuinely all I'm looking for. So I'm fine with Kemi being leader. I'd rather Robert Jenrick for more serious matters. But this is exactly why I don't trust her. She is happy to be backed by open identity politics. And as many people have pointed out in the past, she even uses it herself. Hell, the first thing she did on this campaign trail was say, "Oh, David Tennant called me out. Isn't that ridiculous? I will fight this woke thing, you know, this white guy's having a go at me." And it's like, stop using identity politics. That's what people have an issue with. Just call him a bit of a moron and move on. You don't need to say he's white.
No trust in politicians from any party, left, right, centre.
Trust and confidence in our Westminster politicians is at the lowest ebb that I can remember.
I think you get the point of the campaign video at this point. It's a load of people recording themselves, effectively telling people, "Oh, we don't trust politicians." And Kemi's here to say, "You can trust me."
Because too often people hear things but don't see the results. One of the things I hear quite frequently, "You're all the same, all the parties are the same." We are not the same. The Conservative Party is different. The Conservative Party is special. Our values are the values of the British people.
I really do think you get the idea of the video at this point. It is little more than platitudes of, "Oh yeah, trust us this time." And I'm sorry, Kemi, but you've been in Parliament for quite some time. You've had some, good showings here and there. I'm happy to say that. That's why I'm fine with you being leader, because your rhetoric is definitely in the right direction. It's just, when you're trying to claim, "Oh, the Tories are different," and then pretty much everyone has seen Starmer get in, and actually the main difference between them and the Tories is that their tax system is absolutely bananas, when Tories already put us in a 70-year high for taxes. Yeah, it really doesn't seem that different.
This is a pivotal moment. The Conservative Party must transform like we've done before. This is our time. We are the future. I'm ready. I know you're ready. So let's renew.
Again, on the surface level of it, I'm perfectly fine with this rhetoric. I've said for quite a while the Tory party needs complete transformation. I just don't trust it'll actually transform too much under Kemi. I kind of want her to be leader just to see what she does with it. Again, the Tory party is expendable to me. And she is clearly in the running to win this. She is putting out this campaign video straight after being in the final two. She didn't waste any time. She is serious about winning. It's just hard to see any Tory as anything other than a career politician doing this for barely other reason than Starmer. However, as I say, at least with Kemi, she is putting the rhetoric in the right direction and getting closer to what the electorate are actually after. If she is going in to be Prime Minister for similar reasons to Starmer, just to kind of be there, that's fine as long as she does things I like. I don't really care why people are Prime Minister as long as they're delivering what I want. The problem with Kemi is that she has been in positions of power and not fully delivered what I want. However, as I say, she has done some good things. She was a decent business secretary, and as I say, definitely my second favourite. But that was in a distant place to Robert Jenrick, who I can only respect after winning the final MP round, because he was actually in third place in the previous MP round. James Cleverly was ahead by like 18 points or something, and then he managed to lose the last round. It was actually pretty incredible, and everyone's surprised, but this isn't a video into why that happened, because I'm waiting for more information on it. But Robert Jenrick's reaction to winning this round, when he was the most likely to leave was literally just to have a picture at him with a pub saying, "End of a good day, great to be back on the road, holding my 150th member event in Levenham, Suffolk," which feels way more authentic than what Kemi threw out, which again is another reason I like Jenrick. He seems much more authentic. Now, he's a politician, and it's probably all for show, but a lot of people like authenticity, or at least the show of it. Kemi feels very inauthentic. But, as is the point of this video, both of these people are going to make the left melt down, and that's all I'm really for when it comes from the Tories at this point. Firstly comes your typical response from Labour on Sky, interviewing Conservative MP Andrew Griffith. He was asked generally what the thought process of your average Tory was at this point, and Griffith mentions that in his view, Kemi is the candidate that Labour fears the most. And as I say, the adults in the room, Jess Phillips of the Labour Party, who are currently in government, just replies saying lol, which is just many of the cope-and-seethe tweets you are probably going to be seeing over the next few years. Because if there is one clear reaction to all of this, it is that clearly the leftist establishment, including Labour, including an awful lot of the media, just that entire bubble, are so far removed from reality that they genuinely think that the way you win elections is by being centre-left. Despite the fact that absolutely every party has been centre-left for the past number of years, and the one time it looks like it's not going to be centre-left under Boris Johnson, you have an absolute surge of people voting for him. Margaret Thatcher kept the Tories in power for 17 years by being openly right-wing. These people are never going to learn anything, and I'm not being funny, but rhetoric and results are what win elections. Kemi Badenoch actually does have the rhetoric, as does Robert Jenrick. The problem they have is that they have reform to deal with, who are going to be they're basically going to be, I see a lot of people saying that, oh, Jenrick's flanking the reform on the right. Reform's issue isn't that they're not right-wing enough. Reform's issue is that not enough normies know who they are. But that's going to completely change when it comes to the next few years. They have a plan, and I am fully on board with trusting it. But anyway, as pointed out, yeah, Labour MPs are effectively coping about this, or at least those that are stupid enough to comment on it at all. Next up, Aisha Haroon, who is a Times radio presenter and Labour lord, by the way, is again trying to parade this as a victory, saying, oh look, clearly Tory MPs are way more right-wing, party wants to head into its comfort zone and chase reform, which is obviously a good strategy given that there are plenty of polls coming out showing that reform is actually ahead of the Tories in quite a few constituencies, especially in Wales, which is the next major devolution election coming in about a year and a half. Again, it just shows the mindset that these people have, that the way you win elections is on the centre-left. And again, they've been trying that for decades. And the only reason it's worked this time around, they seem to not have noticed, is because the right-wing vote was completely split in half. Anyway, she removed the ability to reply to this as well, which typically indicates that they don't like hearing that they're wrong. Tim Farron, the ex-Lib Dem leader, has said, well, blimey, I think this could actually be the point when the Tory party ceases to be a movement contending for government. Lib Dems now have a very serious responsibility and opportunity to fill the gap. This is our moment. Again, oh, we're on the centre-left. Don't you realise that's where most of the electorate is? Every study says no, they're way to the right of most MPs. There's barely an MP we have that is actually to the right of your average voter. Again, Lib Dems have the same issue. They don't realise the only reason they've got 72 seats is because the right-wing vote was split. And guess what Tories are going to do next time, especially if Robert Jenrick's in charge? They're going to look and say, right, okay, Tories are actually going to step back from areas where Reform are in the lead. Like, there is a good chance that this is what happens. And Reform say, okay, we'll step back from Tory safe seats. And in doing so, you reduce, almost minimise, the effects of the right-wing split. If you think Lib Dems are going to come in and being slightly to the right of Labour will actually get them any, and I mean any, long-term political positions, then you're just mad. The best the Lib Dems ever did was getting in coalition. And that ruins your chance of ever getting back in government again because you overpromised and underdelivered. Because of course you're going to do that. How can you expect to promise and deliver anything when you had, a quarter, if that, of the size of the Tory coalition part? So this is what I mean by cope and seethe. I'm happy to call Lib Dems left-wingers because an awful lot of them are. They are the party of middle-class socialites who don't like calling themselves socialist, even though they are, because they feel it's a bit of a dirty word. And they are going to keep that cohort, but that is not who the Tories are after. The Tories are after their core vote, which has been leaving them bit by bit for the past 2 decades, because Cameron, and then pretty much all subsequent PMs apart from Truss, did nothing to stop Cthulhu swimming left. I think the people most annoyed, though, are Tory Wets. Here's David Gauke, who recently wrote in Conservative Home, Conservative's very own online magazine, and David Gauke, an ex-Tory MP, wrote that he has rejoined the Conservative Party about 3 months ago, and instantly after this election, he has said, well, that was £39 that could have been better spent. Tory Wets, I think, are the most annoyed group of this because what I'm going to quickly comment on the James Cleverly situation. James Cleverly was effectively the Wet candidate after Tom Tugendhat left. He was the one that the left were now pretending was their biggest threat, which is just such a joke because he was in the previous government that they absolutely trounced. There is no way they think that the Sunak continuity candidate was any threat to them. They're just lying to you. But Tory Wets unironically wanted him because Tory Wets are effectively the type of people that should be Lib Dems, and the only reason they're not is because Tories are better at winning seats. It's exactly why Rory Stewart became a Tory, because he was told by the Lib Dems, if your aim is to become an MP, become a Tory because they win elections. But now that they have lost their favourite candidate, they are now coping and seething because effectively it's just too icky. It's too much of an ick for them to be seen by someone who thinks that actually immigration is too high. They have these uncouth views such as taxes should be lower and spending should not be as ridiculous as it is now, and the national debt actually matters. Because at the end of the day, these are people who don't have views. These are people that just want to have pleasant conversations while cashing in a cheque of nearly £90,000 a year. So as far as I'm concerned, people like David Gauke can just be ignored completely, and he can enjoy trying to change the trajectory that either Kemi or Robert Jenrick are going to go on for the next 5 years from the sidelines of a party that he clearly hates. Next up, it's one of my least favourite podcasts ever, The News Agents, who released a clip where they try and say that actually, once again, in a cope and seething manner, number 10 Downing Street will be the people most pleased to hear this result that the Tory party is actually going to move right of where they are now.
In one sense, it matters, in the sense that what has happened as a net result of this is that the candidate who Labour most feared, Cleverly, is gone.
I don't know anybody that believes that. I don't know anybody that believes that. Hell, again, my parents, who are kind of my centre-right normio-meter, they have sent me clips of Kemi Badenoch saying, I really like this woman's shtick. I know of nobody that was excited for James Cleverly, and I'm not being funny. I simply do not believe these people when they say, yeah, we were definitely scared of James Cleverly. There was no sense of that whatsoever. This is just cope from these people because they need to believe, they have basically gaslit themselves into believing, I should say, that the electorate is to the centre-left and completely reject the right wing. I don't know how they can say that when this has not been true in America, this has not been true all over Europe, and that was not true for the Brexit debate, and that was absolutely not true for Boris Johnson. And if you want to go even further back, Maggie Thatcher. Complete cope and seethe that the party man NPC James Cleverly was who they feared the most. Total nonsense.
The people who will be most pleased about this result right now is number 10 Downing Street.
Best news they've had in
the
ages.
Best news they've had probably since they came to office, actually.
They've now got clear blue water, proper water between them and on what the next iteration of the Tory
Cleverly was not...
If you ever want a perfect encapsulation of what the Westminster and media bubble is, just watch The News Agents. It's fascinating. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that The Rest is Politics is another part of that bubble, but that's more the political bubble. just on complete display. Whenever someone tells me that they listen to The Rest Is Politics or this, I literally just tell them, you may as well just have The Guardian on repeat. Just have them reading out articles. Because you will learn absolutely nothing from them. In fact, you will be even less informed than literally if you just go on TikTok for 5 minutes and scroll through things with hashtag UK politics. Because this is their conclusion. Like, their conclusion is, oh, now it looks like there's going to be a complete differentiation between Labour and the Tories. Therefore, Labour are going to be really happy because now there's less of a threat to the centre-left. Oh, who else on the centre-left? Oh, the Greens. Oh, the Lib Dems. Oh, Plaid Cymru. Oh, the SNP. Like, they've still got competition there. And, you know, you have these two main-line right-wing parties, Reform and Tory. But I'm not being funny. Anything can happen in 5 years. Hell, a week is a long time in politics. Anyone with a brain, and of course by that I mean me, will largely be thinking along these lines. That Reform are going to mainly try and become a household name. That's why they've been throwing out the party political broadcast about Labour being useless the other day, and pushing the CPS to actually get law and order when it comes to the Manchester airport attackers. Like, that stuff gets in the news. That stuff gets people to not only remember failings that we are seeing in the British state at the moment, but that Reform is on the side of the voter, effectively, that you want law and order. You don't want people to have free rein to just beat up female police officers and hospitalise them. From there, they are going to try and do public campaigns as much as they can to do well in council elections, but mainly the Welsh election. Their aim for that is to at least be the opposition party to Labour. And from what I've seen from the polling in Wales, that is not an unreasonable aim. And with that, if you are, in one of the devolved parliaments, the household name, alternative to the mainstream parties, that does absolute wonders. The SNP took over Scotland until it turned out that they're all corrupt, greedy morons. I have trust that Reform are not going to go down that direction, and I have trust that they are not going to waste that potential. And with them being taken seriously at that point, Tories are going to have to take them seriously, or frankly face a completely hung parliament where they're not even necessarily the minority government. They are going right-wing because they see Reform as a threat. I don't know why Labour don't see Reform as a threat, but I think they're going to have to take them more seriously after the Welsh elections. Being second place in 100 constituencies, that is literally the best start that you can ask for. Because they're not just stuck in Scotland like the SNP or Wales like Plaid Cymru, and everyone ignores Northern Ireland anyway. They have opportunities to make breakthroughs in all constituencies in Great Britain, in Scotland, in Wales, in England. Anyone ignoring these facts are not politically savvy enough to be earning the type of money that the newsagents are earning. This is their analysis. Effectively, they are propagandists. They're not there to give you accurate analysis. They are there to gaslight you into thinking that Reform is meaningless, the right wing are this whole cohort that basically doesn't exist, and in fact, the way you win elections is by being Labour last election. Which is a ridiculous thing to say, because, as I made my point throughout the last few months, before we got to the election, voter apathy would win. And voter apathy was at 41%, which outranks every other party vote share. So I was correct. Why is there voter apathy? Because not enough people knew about Reform, or if they did but they were fed up with the Tories, they simply could not trust that Reform were going to win anything major, and so kept their vote to Tory. Or they died, or they didn't vote. That was your options. Moving to the right is definitely the correct thing for the Tories to do if they want improvements on the last election. The newsagents are moronic, and they get paid more than me for having much worse analysis. It's almost like they're not paid for their analysis, but instead for their propaganda.
Not like a perfect candidate in any sense. He had his political vulnerabilities and frailties for sure. But what they feared is here was a guy who was comfortable in his own skin, who could make Starmer look pretty stiff. He was making a whole play of the Conservative Party not being weird, trying to give a sort of sense of normality and wait for the Tory Party to screw up.
This is their analysis. This was their analysis for what the Tory Party should do. They should not be weird. They should be normal. Oh, James Cleverly is comfortable in his own skin, as if the other politicians aren't. This is how pathetic the newsagents are. They are trying to take Democrat talking points of, oh, just call the opponent weird and hope it works. Has the vote swing in America been way to the Democrats after they've tried to call Vance and Trump weird? No, it's completely 50-50. Yet these people don't learn anything. They just live in a bubble and are paid to spew whatever propaganda that bubble wants spewed out. It's pathetic.
That's gone. What they're going to have now is two flavours of right. Jenrick, the sort of zeal of the convert, basically, as some focus groups have suggested, a kind of almost AI-generated looking kind of conservative kind of candidate who has calibrated exactly to where he thinks the Tory party is, which is on the right. Hard for him to tap back to the centre if that's even what he wants to do.
I'm not being funny. I think it's a massive compliment to say to a politician, I think you are literally an AI-generated politician that is perfectly trying to represent what the core Tory vote is. Why you're trying to win a Tory vote? Why would you not want that? That is a compliment, you moron. Again, though, the main criticism there is, oh, it's a bit weird. Like, that's what the AI-generated bit is, but if I was a politician, I'd love to hear that. You think I perfectly encapsulate what the Tory vote is as Tory leader? Wow, that's a really good compliment, thank you.
Or Kemi Badenoch, who, as we know, has a tendency towards self-implosion and getting distracted by quite online right and conspiratorial conservative politics. And that is a much better opponent for Labour.
Yeah, given that I keep an eye on that side of the right, that is absolutely not where she is influenced by. If she listened to the online right, she would never even use the term white in the same sentence as man. The online right have a hissy fit whenever anything remotely identity politics comes up, and Kemi Badenoch keeps doing it. If you think that she is on the conspiratorial right and listens to that side of the internet, you are just a moron who clearly doesn't know what's there, and you get all your information on it from BBC Verify. And yes, that is an insult. Anyway, Lewis Goodall, the host there, was giving further commentary on Twitter, saying not inconsiderable chance that Cleverly is the next Tory leader, who leads the Tories into the next election, taking over mid-parliament from whoever wins this contest. This is their mindset at the moment. This is their mindset that Kemi or Robert Jenrick are going to be so bad that they're not going to even last 5 years. Corbyn was a disaster. Corbyn lost to Theresa May and was kept in for the good part of a decade. Of course this opposition leader is going to be in charge for the next 5 years. There's got to be a lot of infighting, don't get me wrong, but, you know, they're at 100 MPs. They are not as strong as they have been for the past probably 100 years. We're getting pretty close to an 1850 disaster, which was only saved by Disraeli, where the Tories, after the Corn Laws, who were supposed to be, you know, the Tories were supposed to represent the more landowner types, who had these big farms where they'd hire people to do the farming, what have you, agriculture, etc. And yet the Corn Laws, which were keeping them in power, were repealed by Robert Peel, and it caused massive infighting and nearly collapsed the party. And then Disraeli came along and renewed it, and that is what the Tories do an awful lot of the time. The Tories, I reckon, will still be about in 50 years, because they're really good at renewing and getting back to what the electorate actually want. This happened with Thatcher, this happened with Churchill, this happened with Disraeli. I don't see why it can't happen again. Now, do Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch seem like similar types to those that I've just mentioned? Not really, but life's full of surprises. Do I think Kemi or Jenrick will do a better job of renewing them and getting them back as an electoral force than Cleverly? Absolutely, there's no question about that. But these people live in a stupid bubble where all they can do is propagandise because they have no idea how to properly analyse. In another tweet he said, the strategic choice faced by the centre-right parties across the West over the last few years has been whether to draw lines in the sand with the hard right or embrace them. What we know from today's contest is that the next Conservative leader will choose the latter course. That's just nonsense. The hard right don't like Kemi Badenoch. Not even necessarily because she's black, just because, as I've been saying, they think she's a liar, and they don't think she goes far enough. The choice is between a leader who is embracing a traditional populist right/hard right agenda, Jenrick, or one who does much the same thing, but with more online alt-right discourse thrown in. Again, Kemi Badenoch is not that side. Jenrick is much closer to that side, obviously. These people don't know what people talk about online. They don't know what the alt-right has not been a thing for, like, got 5-6 years at this point. They call themselves different names now, Mr. Goodall. They typically go by dissident right or something like that. Or as those of us who keep an eye on them call, the dork right. If you're going to be commenting on right-wing politics, at least keep up with that sort of thing. Most right-wingers don't even know who they are, by the way, so it's absolutely useless bringing them up. This is what Cleverly was driving at with his acting normal agenda. Yes, well, the Tories tried acting normal for over a decade, and people don't like it. People don't like the fact that acting normal basically means give some right-wing rhetoric, give some red meat out, and then do the opposite. Like, if that's acting normal, then yeah, that's just going to be rejected. But this seems to be what the bubble is trying to bleat, with Nish Kumar saying, "It seems incredible for those of us with a low opinion of this iteration of the Conservative Party that they are even dumber than we assumed." Again, if voter apathy is winning when pretty much every party is centre-left and your biggest threat has come from the right of you, of course you're going to move right. But I don't expect these people to even share a brain cell, so I'm kind of glad to see that they're doubling down on clearly the left wing is going to win in Britain, because it is the most untrue statement I can think of. Matthew Stadlin, who is best known for saying that robberies don't happen in London because they haven't happened to him, and then they did happen to him, and he would try to claim that it wasn't a robbery, says, Tory MPs have just voted themselves out of power for a decade. Again, it's pretty nuts how this bubble have gaslit themselves into thinking that Starmer was actually a very popular candidate because he was to the left of the Tories, when, as has to constantly be mentioned, the main reason that they're in power is because Reform split the Tory vote, because people are fed up with the Tories and want something different. And if they renew well enough, they might just get back in next election, who knows. I'm still fully backing Reform, by the way, but I am saying that total renewal can give them a new lease on life. Finally, we get on to the more online left that seems to be somehow even more in the bubble than the people we've just seen. Ed Campbell says the most sophisticated electorate in the world has given members a choice between a man who said British special forces are being forced to murder people because of the woke, isn't true by the way, and a woman leading the charge to abolish maternity pay. Again, just two complete and utter lies that you can only say in earnest if all you do is read headlines, and even from reading those headlines comes the complete wrong conclusion that the headline was saying. I'm not going into detail on why these are wrong, they just are wrong, and Ed Campbell, if you watch my Reacting to Extreme Britain series, whenever anyone says anything nominally right-wing, he will start giving them completely dishonest questions that are effectively just questions of, I hate you. And if anyone says anything nominally left-wing, he will give them fair questions that get deeper into the point they're making. And this is the type of commentary you will have when you have that mindset. You will just lie about your opponent and pretend that you have it in the bag that your politics will end up winning the day. It's not true. Next up, it was Corbyn's personal economist, Richard Murphy, saying Badenoch v Jenrick. With those words, we can summarise the decline leading to the demise of the Tories. Both are as bad as Truss, if not worse. I don't see how they recover from this. I really hope they are like Truss, because Truss is slowly being vindicated, and if they are effectively using Truss's rhetoric without openly saying that they agreed with her at the time, they'll probably do quite well, because people's memories are short. People just know that they have to hate Truss because she upped mortgages. Not even true, by the way, but again, I'm not here to go into detail on that. But you've got to learn how your electorate work. Normies and pretty much everyone think Truss is a complete moron who destroyed the economics of the country. They don't understand why, because people don't understand economics. So you pretty much have free reign with whatever you want to do on economics. And if they are Truss-like, they are going to be pretty good. And I actually trust that Jenrick is going down that route. Badenoch possibly so as well, but it's hard to say. Either way, once again, completely moronic analysis, but I completely expect that from someone who unironically says that the national debt doesn't even exist. Because when you buy a government bond or a gilt in the UK, you end up getting money back on it. Therefore, it's not really a debt, it is just a tax rebate. I mean, the man is a moron. I've done videos on him, I could go on about it forever. We will just move on. Anyway, the final bunch of left-wing activists, Eshiro, blacktivist as best I can describe him, says that the choice is like between syphilis and herpes. Ian Dunt, another ex-mainstream influencer, says to be fair to Jenrick, he's the only person I've seen manage to be batshit and boring at the same time, so that's got to stand for something. And the secret barrister says, I see we are guaranteed an utterly unhinged opposition for the next few years. Again, all I can say to all this is that these people have no idea what the average person in Britain thinks. They have no idea what the average voter is like. They have clearly not seen the studies that constantly say that MPs are to the left on pretty much everything to the electorate. And yet they will keep going on. The only reason they say it's unhinged is because at dinner parties in London, they will effectively all say how mental they are, and, oh, I know that the Prime Minister and his cabinet took a load of freebies and are a bit sleazy, but, they're better than the Tories. They're better than the Tories. The Tories are mental. That is how these people think. And it is going to be an absolute shock for them over the next 3 years. 3 years if we're lucky, 5 years more than likely, when Labour just keep losing all of these by-elections, council elections, and even possibly the Welsh Senate. I mean, it's unlikely they lose control of it, but you'll probably see Reform be more of a household name. That's going to start being a real threat to Labour, and you might finally see an entire Overton window shift to the right, especially with how the rest of Europe and America's going. There's no way that this current paradigm can keep going as it is. But that is the paradigm we are in for now. One where the gap between normal people and all of these media and political elites are just widening and widening and widening. The gap is so big now that even Sky News, which went very left-wing over the past decade or so, is a completely failing business model. They used to be known as even better than the BBC for their news, and now no one trusts them because people are moving away from mainstream sources because they realise they are not actually learning anything useful about current events. So now Twitter is a massive news source. I see people on TikTok delivering news, even by left-wingers, that is more sane than what you see on the television. And that's what these people rely on. They rely on these mainstream narratives put out by broadcast media. And it's just not lasting. It's just not lasting at all. There is a reason that The Spectator has been pretty much tripling its subscription base, for all these years. It's because their analysis is mostly good. They have the odd bad thing, but you're always going to with something like The Spectator because they let anyone say anything. And then when it comes to online media, I mean, it's growing. There's no doubt about that. My channel's grown quite substantially since Labour got in. This paradigm is failing. It is failing. And having either Kemi or Jenrick in there that is making them go even more unhinged, I only see it as a win. But that's all the Tories are useful for me at the moment. Do they make leftists go unhinged? If yes, fine, put them in. I am fine with either of them. Realistically, I'd rather Jenrick. If Kemi gets in, I think it will implode because she is untrustworthy. And I reckon people are going to work that out if they haven't already. Anyway, with that is everything I had for you for today. So it's shill time yet again. Tonight, I am on Proper Horror Show stream to talk about the film Teeth. It was grim. That's about all I'm saying for now. Find out the rest on the stream. Saturday, it's Laughing at the Guardian, so do come along to that. Next Monday, we are properly starting the history stream about the Peloponnesian Wars over on the Worcester Club, so do join the Discord down below. Do follow us on Twitter, and I will be posting out when it actually goes live on my channel too, so keep an eye on the community tab. Tuesday, it's Tosh Talk. It's not Tosh Talk, sorry. It's Tosh Newscast. So we'll be covering these past 2 weeks, and no doubt we'll be talking a lot about the leadership contest. Next Wednesday, I'll be back to Dustborn as well. So hopefully we can finish it that Wednesday. And then obviously videos are out as and when I can do them. I think I've been doing pretty well recently to get one pretty much out per day. So I'd say expect more of that. But with that, that's everything I have for you for today, so please subscribe, become a member, send super thanks, watch all the videos that you can. Please get anyone you know onto my channel as well that you think would be interested. Everything like that helps the channel grow and helps me keep putting out this analysis that is just far superior to anything the mainstream can manage. And I'd say I've been pretty comfortable saying that for the past few years. You know, I think I am beyond the point of being mediocre, and I hope you find it entertaining too. Anyway, enough of that. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.